Hi, welcome back to my workshop. This is part 3 of the Acid800XL series. Part 2, we did the keyboard. Now we're going to get on to the main board, the part that we've all been waiting for. And much like the beginning of the keyboard, there were some parts that I couldn't film where I was soaking things outside of my room. But we will ultrasonic clean it, and we will scrub it, and then we will look at the traces on the bottom and try and get rid of the horrible stains that are on there. And we'll clean it again, and clean it again, and clean it again. I'll remove parts that look corroded and damaged, clean up all the pads so they look nice, so that we can then start to put the parts back in the board. We'll also use the working 800XL system to test the chips that we've taken out of this damaged one to assess what we can put back in, so we know if we've got a working set of chips before we decide to try them. Eventually we will get to switching it on, and we'll have to see what happens. I'm not going to give anything away, you'll just have to watch. So let's get on with more cleaning and scrubbing, and cleaning and scrubbing, and soldering and desoldering, time lapses, and then eventually I do swear a lot. Just to warn you now, there is a lot of swearing at the end of this video. So let's get on with it. If we go back to the first video, you can see it's just so amazingly corroded and it just crumbles in my hands. I use some white vinegar to clean off the corrosion, the acid or alkaline, whatever it is, and give it a good clean, and then I leave it soaking in some white vinegar overnight outside of my workshop. After that first clean and soak, we can see that the bottom of the board has heavily stained. There's some areas that are really dark. There are also still a lot of areas on the top of the board that have a lot of corrosion, and they're under the components, and I need to work on those later. After the first clean and the soak, I look at the stains on the bottom of the board, and I use a fiberglass pen, some IPA and Q-tips, and it was quite a lot of work. The fiberglass pens were taking too much of the solder mask away, but I did carry on with this first section. The other problem with the fiberglass pens is the bits of fiberglass just get everywhere. Even wearing gloves and those thicker rubber gloves, it would just get in my hands. It was so irritating. But with all the hard work, we were starting to see some good results. And under even the darkest of the stains, the traces looked good. It didn't look like they'd taken any of the traces away. I then did some research looking at videos on YouTube of cleaning circuit boards, and one that popped up a lot was using bicarbonate of soda and water. You make a paste and then use that as a gentle abrasive. I did let it soak on the board for about 10-15 minutes, and then I just carried on with the brushes and then Q-tips until I eventually got all of those stains removed. Just after I'd finished doing the bicarb cleaning, the bigger ultrasonic cleaner arrived, the 10 litre, and I gave it a good clean. You could just fit like 3/4 of the board in there, so I did the usual trick of flipping it up, down, left and right. It's finished the 4th cycle, so I flipped in all directions. So it looks a little bit better. These areas still a little bit bad, so we'll have to do some more work on there. The stuff under the sockets looks better. Around here also looks better, but we still have a lot of cleaning to do. Same with the back. The back is looking better. Everything is looking better. I cleaned this side first anyway. That was the first thing that I did. The main problem areas are this socket and this area just here. There was a lot of corrosion around there, so I've taken all of those resistors and filters out so that we can clean underneath. My next still big concern is the traces going up to this connector because of all the corrosion here. If we can't get that working, then we can't use the sys check to do the tests that I want to do. We definitely have to get this off, and we probably have to rebuild this area around here, the power conditioning, so that we've got good clean power. I have another edge connector coming in, but we do have the XL system that we can take parts off. I really need to clean this area up because there's traces that run underneath there, and I really want to get this chip out, the PIA, to clean underneath there as well. I want to get these sockets out, so you can see that that still looks pretty nasty, and that there is stuff underneath there. That chip was really bad, so I want to replace both of those. If we look on the underside, so this is cleaned up okay. Got rid of all of those really dark stains. There are a few legs that are still dark, so I'm hoping that the solder and flux will help to get rid of those. And there's a few dark legs on the memory as well. At the time of filming this, I don't have solder braid. I ran out. I'm going to try some no clean flux and some gel PGA rework flux and solder, and just some gentle rubbing on those darker legs to see if we can get those cleaned up. So we're going to look at this one first. So let's just give this a go. I've got some flux in a little spray bottle. Okay, that's looking promising. So the solder is flowing. Can you hear that? That's the sound of the desolder station heating up. What a sound. So anyway, we've reflowed the solder, and now we're using the desolder station to desolder the solder. Desoldering the solder with the desolder station. I used the hot air gun to melt the sockets after cutting them in half, and then I used the pliers to pull out the legs that were left. Getting sockets out is really tricky because you can't just grip them. So yeah, cut them in half and then use the hot air. Be very careful that you don't over melt them, because I did leave a little bit of plastic in some places. But that is a good way to get those sockets out. Once the socket's out, I'm then reflowing the solder on the top to get a nice clean pad. And when I get the solder braid and also the new desolder sucker, I will clean up all the solder that I've left behind while doing this. So now I've just got to do the same thing on those pins across the bottom. So I will come back when I've done that. So I've just removed the PIA, which was the only chip that wasn't in a socket, and you can see that it's pretty bad underneath. Looks like the solder's flowed okay, so we just need to give that a clean up now. Just removed the socket for the Sally, and as I feared, the socket was really badly corroded, so this one could be tricky. I have to be very careful with that one. Try and get that corrosion off the pads. So let's have a quick look at what I've just finished doing. So you can see that I have all of the DIP 40 sockets out and the PIA chip. I've cleaned up all the pads and looked at the traces. They look okay. I've got rid of those nasty resistors in this corner and checked the traces underneath. Those are okay. I've removed the basic and the operating system ROMs and cleaned the pads up on those. And I've done some more work on the edge connector and did a continuity test, and they look okay. There's a couple that I'm not sure where they go to, but all the ones that I've tested have been okay. So that still needs a bit of cleanup on the back. So the next job is just carry on with more resistors, get these two chips out. Anything that looks dodgy is coming out. I have the PIA chip that needs testing. I have the basic chip. I have the operating system and whatever that one is. So they can be tested in the XL system.
Tomorrow.
Alright, it's the next morning. I'm going to carry on. I want to remove these two chips. I want to remove these resistors. I want to remove the keyboard connector because I've got the other one from the XE. And I've decided I'm going to remove the RAM so that I can test it and put sockets back in. And I do have some RAM that I took off the XE as well. So that's what we're going to do. So we are removing the RAM and I'm using the same techniques as before. So lots of flux on the solder on the bottom. The solder on the RAM legs was quite dark. Get the solder reflowing, use the desolder station, and then use hot air on the top. Gently lift the chips out. Unfortunately, I didn't protect the crystals, so they did get a bit baked. And I do test them later, and they don't work. So we have our RAM and the two 4051s, I think they are. Yeah, 4051s. So they can be tested. Okay, so that has cleaned up nice. We have some nice clean pads. So I am going to remove the solder that's left on here and then we'll put sockets in. Okay, that looks a lot cleaner. They were quite bad underneath those chips. I was kind of putting this bit off, but let's do these resistors. Maybe some of them will just pull out. And just let it cool down a little bit. Alright, that looks nice and clean, so we can look at rebuilding that part.
Several days later.
So as you can see, I have desoldered all of the pads across the bottom, and then I have cleaned all that up with IPA. Same goes for this end, top and bottom. My next area is this bottom corner where this the colour adjuster was corroded, and then this area just here that was close to the modulator. So I'm going to cut those out and remove them, and I'm also going to remove the caps because I've got new caps to go.
2 hours later.
We are back. As you can see, I have removed the transistors, the capacitors. I'm tempted to remove these crystals. I do have replacements, but we'll see what happens with those. So I'm not sure, but I think this is as far as I will go for removing stuff until I have to. So this is the DRAM tester that we used in the MSX video. In this case, we are looking for 4 green LEDs when it's finished the test. So let's try one of these 4164s that came out of the XE system. And we have 4 green LEDs, so that one is a good chip. I'm just going to mark them with a tick. So all of the ones that we took out of the XE are good. Now let's try these ones that we took out of the XL. Bad. Good. So that one failed in the test. Good. Bad. Good. Wow. 4 of the memory chips were good. We have 6 good chips that came out of the XE and 4 good chips that came out of the Acid800XL and 4 that failed out of the Acid800XL. So out of the XE we got a Pokey and a Sally. I removed the 4051s, these ferrite beads and the keyboard connector. I also took off the colour adjust because that one was bad. And out of the Acid XL we have PIA, the basic ROM, operating system, whatever that chip is. I've also got a power switch and the connectors from the back that we took out. So I think we should set up the 800XL that I got from Johnny and we'll test some of these chips. These are the chips that I removed from the Acid800XL. We have a GTIA, a Horrible Sally, the Antec, and the Pokey. I'm not even going to try the Sally, just look at it. You can see that it's in a really bad state, really corroded on the legs. The legs are just falling off with the slightest touch. It's just not worth it. This is the Pokey that I removed, and this also has some broken legs. So that I don't stress the legs anymore, I've put them in round pin sockets. And in this case, I tried to solder the missing legs into the round pin socket to try and use it again. Next, we have the GTIA, and this one doesn't look too bad. The legs are not so corroded. I have cleaned them up, and this one is also in a round pin socket. This is the Antec, and it's, I'd say, like 90%. There's a little bit of corrosion on the top. Overall, not too bad. As I've only just removed the PIA chip from the board, it isn't in a socket yet, so let's quickly put it into a socket and straighten those legs. The basic ROM doesn't look particularly bad. I'm hopeful that that's going to work. And last we have the operating system ROM, which does have quite a lot of corroded legs. Probably 50-50. Right, let's try and straighten up the legs on this PIA and put it into one of these round pin sockets. I'm just going to give it a quick scrub with the fiberglass pen to get the legs nice and shiny. And there we are in the socket, so we will no longer stress those legs again. So we're back with the working XL system, and I'm going to remove the chips one by one and replace them, starting with the basic ROM. So we will be putting the basic ROM in from the Acid800XL. Just check the legs are okay. In we go. Pop. Let's switch that on. And we should just see a basic prompt. And there we go. We have a ready prompt. Chip's good. I'm going to put a tick on there so that we know that it's a good chip. Switch that system off, and now I'm going to do the operating system ROM. I only have one of the basic pullers, not the fancy one. It still works. Again, let's do a quick check, make sure that the legs look good, as I've only just removed these from the Acid800XL. So pop that in, switch it on, and that one does not work. But we can double check that with the syscheck card. So just flip the jumpers on the card, try that again, skip through the memory test, graphics test, and we get a fail. ROM checksums are bad. Replace the ROM. So I will put a cross on that and we will not use it. So luckily I did buy a Sally and an operating system ROM from eBay for about £15, just in case we needed them. So I'm going to put in the one that I brought. Here we go. Set the dip switch so it goes back to the normal boot. Switch on. Looks good. And we get a ready prompt. So that is another good chip. Let's try the pokey where I did the soldering to try and salvage those broken legs. Here we go, switch it on. We get a power up, but for whatever reason it wouldn't make the noises like it was loading, and it just sat with the cursor. Try that again with option pressed down, and it didn't do anything, so that pokey is not working. Switch that on, and the first time that I tried it, it was working okay, but now it was doing some strange things, like it was being a bit erratic, and I wondered if it was something to do with the socket. So I will try this again at a later date, but for now I'll just put it to one side, because we do have a good pokey that we can use in the Acid800XL. So there we go, that is our good one back in. Now I'm going to try the PIA that we took out of the Acid800XL. It was a little bit tricky to get back in. That socket was not so good on the working system. So there we go with the PIA, and that boots up okay. Seems to be alright. So I am doing the keyboard test, but you can't see it because my fat ass is in the way. And this was also before I fixed the keyboard problem on the system, but that's a fault with this XL board. So I'm happy that that chip is working. Now I already have the Antec chip in, and that's switched on okay, so I just stick the GTIA in. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? So we'll quickly put that in, and we will run through the syscheck. So the syscheck will run through its memory test, then it will do its graphics test, and quickly check the operating system. And as you can see, that all looks good. At this point we have the GTIA, the Antec, the PIA, and the basic ROM from the Acid800XL. Absolutely amazing. I didn't think any of these chips would work, but as we can see, they are working. It's a shame about the pokey. Maybe I could look at that again on a later date. Next we just have this smaller chip to check, and later on off camera I also checked the MMU, which I desoldered from the board, and the MMU doesn't work, so I did order a new one. So here we have a good set of working chips with as many as I can take from the Acid800XL that we can use when we first turn it on. I think it's time to start putting some components back into this board. The board is pretty clean. It does have a lot of flux that needs cleaning off, but we'll do that after we've repopulated the board. There are still a few pads that are blocked, but we'll do those when we find them. I made a list of all the components I need to put back in, and this is all thanks to Easy Contents, who made a replica of the 800XL board, and you can find all the details in the description. So I downloaded the Gerber files and the bill of materials, and then I loaded the Gerber files into FlatCam so that I could choose what I wanted to look at. This allows me to look at the top and bottom layer and also the silk screen. The silk screen on my board in places was very difficult to see, so I used these printouts instead. So a combination of the silk screen, the bill of materials, and the working XL system, I should have no trouble finding the places and the correct components to put back into the board. There are still quite a few parts on the XE system, but I have taken all of the good stuff out already, and anything that's left I've got new parts instead. So I'm going to start in the corner where the power comes in. So this section that we see on the Gerber printout. We do have a power switch which I'll put in after the lower capacitors have been put in. And now I'm putting in the 22 microfarad axial capacitors. First one that I found has already got a blocked hole on there. These are a little bit wider than I would have liked, but they do fit in okay. They just need a bit of a squeeze. And luckily I did get all of the pads clean. Hello?
Boo!
Oh, thank you, Lee. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm trying my best. So now we're on to soldering the rest of the power circuit. We need a good power circuit to have a good clean signal.
Boring.
What Neil? Oh, sorry. I have to do this. It needs to be done properly. You can't rush me. So now we're doing the transistors.
Oh, come on. Enough with the soldering
Mr. Lurch.
already.
What? Okay, we're moving on to the sockets. And these were a couple of holes that were blocked up here. So back to soldering, and as you can see, I cleaned up all the pads. Oh, hi,
Lee.
easy contents.
We all love to solve the
Yes.
Atari boards, but come on, get
I'm
on
trying,
with it.
but you keep interrupting me. So back to soldering the sockets, and another one that was blocked up. So like I said, we've got nice clean pads now, so the solder is flowing on there really easily. What, Lee, again?
Get on with it.
I'm trying. Right, we've skipped forward again, seeing as everybody seems to be so impatient.
Come on, get on with it, man.
I am trying, Neil, I'm trying. Right, so we're on to resistors now. And thankfully, I ordered a massive set of resistors from Amazon, so I didn't have to wait for the ones that I was missing.
Dude, you've been rubbing at that thing for a month. Time to switch it on.
Thanks, mate. I'll get to it. Right, so we're on to the resistors for the keyboard, which are 220 ohm. And just solder all those up on the bottom. There was a couple of pads that were missing around here.
So, Lee,
Oh, hello, Reese.
my friend and I here would like to have a quiet word with you, if you don't
Okay.
mind. Considering you outbid us on that Atari that we
Yeah,
were
I was
so
quite cheeky
looking
with that.
forward to restoring on our channel here. And I think that was pretty rude of you.
I mean, I'm sorry.
But to be fair, mate, I'm really enjoying the restoration series so far. I think you've done an absolutely fantastic job of
Thank
it,
you,
especially
Reece.
considering the condition it was in when it started. So
Yeah,
my hat is
yeah.
genuinely off to you. I think you've done a really great job of it.
Thank
and I'm
you.
really looking forward to seeing it working. And, well, you did manage to get it working, didn't you?
Well, we'll just have to watch a bit later. Alright, so now I'm just sorting out the rest of the resistors in that middle section. They were quite tricky.
Are we done yet? Can we turn the thing on already?
Oh, come on, Mr. Lurch. I am getting there. So, as we saw there, I had to do a bit creativeness with the resistors. And I'm just taking out the 820 microhenry filter from the...
Just hurry
working-
up already, Lee.
Wow. That was a long time to put that back together. I also had to improvise. I needed a 1.6k resistor, and I didn't have one, and I couldn't find one or anything else. So I used a 1.5 and 100 ohm, and it gives just under 1.6. It's for the composite sync. So I didn't want to go over. I could go over to 1.65. We can do that. I'll see how it goes. The other components that I haven't put in are these 1 nanofarads because I don't have enough. But these are only for the serial communications. So I'm hoping that that will be enough to get it booting. So we have all of these capacitors and filters on the side, resistors for the keyboard, all the sockets are back on. I'm a little bit worried about the crystals that I cooked. So the first power on will be without any of the chips, so that I can check voltages and frequencies. We should still get oscillations out of those. But before I do that, I'm going to give it another quick scrub and inspection, just to look for any joints that are any bad joints, any solder blobs, and any resistor legs that are still left on there. So that will be my next thing. I'm going to give it a quick scrub and an inspection, and then we will come back for the power up. Alexa, pick some cool music for cleaning boards too.
Hello Lee, I will play some cool music while you clean that Atari board, again, like just get on with it.
Lee, at Perifractic here, sorry for the intrusion, I've tapped into your Alexa. Could you just get on with it and, turn the thing on? Thanks. Oh, Puppy Fractic says hi. Lady Fractic, well, she's ironing her goldfish or something. Bye.
Hang on a minute, Perry. I don't have an Alexa. How did you do that?
For your Atari to power on, you must flip it. We've waited far too long for you to flip it. We haven't got all day until you flip it. Now flip it good.
So I've checked that everything is in correctly. We don't have the memory in. We do not have any of the main chips in, or the BIOS, or the MMU, anything that could basically be damaged. All I want to do at the moment is see if the crystals are working and make sure that the thing just doesn't go up in smoke. Set the power supply to just 500 milliamps. So I've got the probes on the legs of the crystals. I'm so nervous, it's unreal how nervous I am.
Turn it on already.
Power supply is on. It's switched on. I'm going to switch it off. Oh man. Amazing. It didn't go up in smoke. So what frequencies do we have? So it says channel 1, 709.2 kilohertz. And channel 2, 886.8. So I don't think they are correct. Yep, that's the same. .12. So it seems to be jumping around a bit. We could try swapping the crystal out.
Later.
.55. 886. 4.4. Okay, so 3.54. 4.4. We do have working clock. I think we just have to populate it. So we are handling RAM. I am on an anti-static mat. Right, got my wrist strap on, I'm grounded. The mat is grounded and plugged into the mains. So like I said before, I have checked the RAM that was in the board, and it was MT RAM, and 4 of them worked and 4 of them do not work. The only other RAM that I had was the RAM that I took out of XE, and there were 2 different types. You don't want to be using MT RAM, so I just brought another set of RAM that was all the same from a seller on eBay. So this is the GTIA off the original. You can see that I've put it in another socket to protect it. Then we have the Antec. We have Sally, which I think came off the XE system. The other one's in the other XL at the minute. The PIA, which also came off the original. The TC405, which I took off the XE. So we've just got the pokey left to go on. It's kind of in. We'll have to just try it. Oh, I'm so nervous.
Come on, do it. Power on the computer.
Ground.
Hurry up, Lee.
All the memory's in the right way. AV2. Switch the power off. Turn that one on. Right, here we go. This is it. This is the moment of truth.
Do it.
Me! Me! Wow! Woo! Wow! 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 Oh no, I can't fucking believe it. This is so amazing. I'm shaking, I can't keep my hand still. We've got colour. Oh my word. Let's connect up the keyboard. Oh my word, oh my word, oh my word. This is so fucking awesome. Excuse my language. These don't look very good. They looks like a lot of the glue hasn't stayed stuck down. Oh my word, I don't know what to say. Apart from, woo! I need something. Where's my, excuse the paper. Let's do all tests. I think I need to sit down. I definitely don't need any coffee. Sounds good, but then we know because it's... Okay, that's not good. Oh, it's just the cable. So the cable is very dodgy. What can I say? So I'm going to leave it at this point because I need to get some more caps and I need to put the edge connector back on, but it needs a bit of work because I've lost some pads. So that will be the last thing, and then we can look at putting it back into the case. But really, do we even need to go any further? We've all seen what we wanted to see. That, it says ready, it's switched on. I'm not going to sleep tonight, I'm not going to lie. That is that is just the most amazing thing ever, beyond my wildest dreams. Yes, it's taken a lot of work, but it works.
Several days later.
It's been about a week since you last saw me, and I've been very busy with work. And my workshop is a tip, so I thought I would record out here again. Let's just do a quick recap of what I've done since you last saw me. So, like we can see, we have the keyboard and case all back together. It's not screwed down. I did replace the joystick ports from the XE. When I looked into those, they were really crusty inside. I just didn't like the look of them. I haven't done anything with the communications port on the side, but I have made sure that the display and the power ports work okay. I did try the SysCheck card just to see what would happen, and it does not work. So as I thought, there was definitely some problems with this rear expansion port. I will look at that at a later date. For now, I'm happy with how far I've got. So there are some problems with the keyboard, and I think it's just because it's a little bit bent, and also the way that I put everything together. You can see that I have some capped on tape. And I think it's just because I did nuts and bolts on the metal work and they're perhaps touching something. So I will look for the correct size bolts that will go onto there. Another thing that you will see is that I've put on the cartridge connector and I cleaned up this the best as I could. So that is now back on. As we saw before, I have got new RAM in the sockets. I didn't want to put some of the MT ones back in, so we have a set of new RAM that was brought from a very helpful guy who sells Dragon 32 parts. The case is looking quite nice. It still has some stains on the top and what's left of the name. The bottom is looking decent enough unless you look at the grills, but compared to what it was like before, I am quite happy with that. So let's quickly turn it on, and I've got one more surprise for you. If we quickly switch it on. We can see that it's still working. So I still have a big problem with the spacebar. The spacebar is getting stuck and it's just staying stuck down. So it's causing a big problem. I will look for a replacement spacebar key switch. It is different to this, it's round. So I'll see what I can find for that. But after that, all the keys are working still. It is very sensitive. I'm not going to be pounding the keys, that is for sure. I did run through all of the hardware tests that you saw before, so that's good. Obviously we've got new memory in, so the memory is working fine, and the sound is working, so it is passing the hardware tests. But I didn't really have any other way of testing. I don't have a tape, and I don't have the S Drive Max anymore. I sold my older XE setup. So I wanted to find some way to test. And we do have 4 cartridges that came with it. Now, I do have some footage of cleaning the cartridges, and I tested them. Out of the 4, 1 of them actually works. And I cleaned up the cartridge, and I printed off a label. I managed to find a scan of the label, and this game is called Mr. Cool. So let's turn this off. I've got my Atari joystick. Pop that in. And we can see that this cartridge is working. So one of the 4 actually works. And we can play the game. So the system is working, the joystick ports are working. I'm not quite sure what is going on, because if I press a key, the game just stops. So I'm going to come around and we can quickly have a quick go on this game. So it's kind of like Qbert in a way. And you just have to turn all of the levels to one colour. And it does work in the Qbert style. Not the best doing diagonals with an Atari joystick. And we got killed. It does have I guess like a shield. Once you get the hang of the diagonals, it's not too bad. Should have done my shield. So if we just drop down that side now, we finish the level. So it's much the same, but now there's some like creatures that start chasing me. So you get the idea. So is that the end of this series? I don't think so. I do have the other cartridges to look at. A couple of them I might be able to get working. This testing, the loading of tapes with that back port, I haven't got any way to do that at this time. We could look at the joystick, we could look at the cassette drive, although I really think that is beyond. It just felt like a solid brick. And somebody could maybe look at the tapes if they have a setup where they could clean it. I don't know if Techbone would be interested. I could perhaps contact him and see what he says. I'm really happy with the progress that I've made. I can't thank you all enough for the clips that you sent in. Thank you so much. I hope that that made this video just as funny as the others. And my reaction when I turned it on, sorry about all the swearing, but I genuinely was shocked. I did not think that it would turn on without an epic amount of diagnostics afterwards. I know that we did a lot of work beforehand, but for it to turn on the first time and just work, I was gobsmacked. Well, I wasn't gobsmacked. I swore like a pirate. Did I? I don't know. I swore a lot. And my hands were shaking. You could see I was trying to carry work and my adrenaline rush was there. My hands were genuinely shaking. And it was just an epic high after so much work for it to just turn on. It's an absolutely amazing feeling. And I had a bit of a downer after that because I'd fixed it. It was working. That was a month of hard work. And now it's done. So the next question is, what is next? Do I want to go and find something equally as bad? Or do I just go back to doing just mundane, find another system that I could find for cheap and just get it working again? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. But we can definitely look at the remaining parts of this, do some more testing, tape drive, joystick, and the remaining cartridges for another part. But for now, this is at least working properly. Again, keyboard is particularly delicate, so maybe look at replacing the keyboard and getting a new circuit board, new key switches. Could be something worth looking into. And definitely looking at why the expansion port isn't working on the back. All things that I could look at in the future. Thank you all for watching. Thank you again for all the new subscribers. so many new subscribers since I started this series. And again, thank you for everybody that sent in little clips. Can't thank you enough. Amazing. Such a wonderful community of retro people on YouTube and Twitter who are doing retro games, retro restorations and everything. I love you all. You're just such a great bunch of people. Can't thank you all enough for all the help and all the support. So that's it. I will see you on the next one.